I gave Stellar Blade a try recently, and as an action RPG, it really shines with its fast-paced combat and gorgeous futuristic world. The gameplay is smooth, and pulling off combos feels great, especially against the challenging bosses that keep you on your toes. The visuals are top-notch, making every fight and every location look amazing. But I did feel like the story was pretty basic, and the characters weren't all that interesting, which was a bit of a letdown. Even with that, the combat and graphics are so well done that it's still a fun experience. It's definitely a solid pick for anyone who loves action-packed games with stunning visuals. If you're looking for exciting combat, this game nails it. Senua's Saga Hellblade 2 is a dark and intense action game where you play as Senua, a warrior who's battling her own mental health struggles while fighting to save her people. It's a really immersive experience, and the visuals are absolutely stunning. They're so realistic and detailed. The combat is brutal and visceral. It feels very weighty and impactful. I love the way they incorporated Senua's mental state into the gameplay. The voices in her head and the visual hallucinations really add to the atmosphere.
What have you done? Stop.
Please help!
It's a very emotional game, and it deals with some heavy themes. If I had to mention anything negative, it's that the game can be quite short, and some might find the combat a little repetitive. But overall, it's a powerful and unforgettable experience. It's a game that stays with you long after you've finished it. Elden Ring is a massive and challenging game that I've sunk countless hours into exploring. The open world is absolutely incredible. There's so much to discover, and every corner feels like it holds a secret. The combat is tough, but rewarding. Finally beating a boss after trying again and again is such a great feeling. Building your character and finding new weapons and armor is really fun too. And there are tons of options to choose from. It's definitely not easy though. This game is hard, like really hard, and it can be frustrating at times. Also, the story is a bit cryptic and you have to piece it together yourself, which some people might not like. But even with the difficulty and the somewhat vague story, I absolutely love this game. If you're looking for a challenging and rewarding open-world experience, you should definitely give it a try. Silent Hill 2 Remake is a survival horror game that reimagines the classic with stunning graphics and a haunting atmosphere. It stays true to the original story, which is one of the best in horror gaming. I loved how they kept the creepy vibe while updating the visuals to look more realistic. The sound design is fantastic, making every moment feel tense and unsettling. The puzzles are well designed and add to the mystery. My only complaint is that the combat still feels stiff and a bit outdated. But overall, it's a great remake that fans of the series will really appreciate. It's definitely worth playing if you want a chilling experience. Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons is an adventure game that really knows how to tell a story without using many words. And everything about it is designed to make you feel connected to these two brothers. I played this with my brother, and it was honestly one of the best couch co-op experiences because we had to constantly work together and figure things out. The puzzles are really creative, and the game has this fairy tale feeling that makes it feel like you're in a storybook. The only thing that might be tricky at first is controlling each brother separately. But once you get used to it, the game just keeps pulling you in until the very end.
Get some! Get some!
Helldivers 2 is a co-op tactical shooter that challenges you and your friends to survive intense battles against alien enemies on different planets. The game's strategic elements, like managing friendly fire and coordinating attacks, really make it stand out. The chaotic combat and emphasis on teamwork are great. Though I did find some of the missions to be a bit too similar, and the difficulty could be quite punishing at times. Even with these issues, it's still a fun game if you're into cooperative shooters that require good communication and strategy. It's the type of game that feels incredibly rewarding when you finally beat a tough mission. I played Ghost of Tsushima a while back now, and it still stands out as one of the most beautiful open-world games I've ever experienced. Exploring the island of Tsushima is breathtaking. The scenery is absolutely gorgeous, and the way the wind blows through the grass and trees is just mesmerizing. The combat is really satisfying too. Learning different stances and mastering the katana feels great. The story is compelling and the characters are well developed. I really felt invested in Jin's journey. It's not perfect though. Some of the side quests can be a bit repetitive, and the stealth mechanics aren't always the best. Also, while the world is beautiful, some areas can feel a little empty, but even with those small issues, this game is amazing. If you're looking for a beautiful open-world game with great combat and a compelling story, you should definitely give it a try.
I think I got this.
So I finally got around to playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and I was blown away by how much fun it is. The world is absolutely gorgeous, exploring it is a real treat. Combat is super engaging.
Let's finish this.
Switching between characters pulling off these awesome combos makes every fight exciting. The story is captivating too. Seeing these familiar characters again with some new twists is just fantastic. They really captured the magic of the original while adding their own spin, which is really cool. Even the side quests are enjoyable. They actually add to the world and the story instead of just being boring filler. Now, it's not perfect, of course. I did have a couple of minor issues. The camera can be a little wonky sometimes, especially in close quarters, and I did run into a few little glitches here and there. Plus, some of the dialogue can be a bit cheesy at times. But honestly, even with those small problems, I thoroughly enjoyed Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. It's a fantastic game, and I would definitely recommend it to any fan of RPGs or anyone just looking for a really fun adventure.
Bring it!
Avowed is a fantasy RPG where you explore an epic world, fight enemies with magic and swords, and make choices that actually matter. And honestly, it's got some great things going for it. The combat feels powerful, and switching between weapons and spells is fun, but sometimes it feels like it could be just a little smoother. The world is filled with history, secrets, and cool locations, but there are moments where it feels a little empty, like something's missing. The story has some awesome moments and solid writing, but at times, it doesn't quite hit as hard as you'd expect. It's a strong RPG with some great ideas, and while it's not flawless, it's definitely worth playing if you love deep worlds and big choices.
What do you know of the living lands?
Sakuna of Rice and Ruin is this really cool mix of action, platforming, and farming. You play as Sakuna, a spoiled harvest goddess who gets banished to a dangerous island and has to learn to cultivate rice and fight monsters. The combat is surprisingly deep. There's a lot of different combos and skills to learn, and it feels really satisfying to take down enemies. But the farming aspect is just as important. You have to carefully manage your rice paddies to grow the best possible rice, and that rice actually makes Sakuna stronger, so it's all connected. I loved the art style. It's really vibrant and colorful, and the characters are all charming. It can be a bit grindy at times. You do spend a lot of time tending to your rice, and some of the combat challenges can be tough. But overall, it's a really unique and enjoyable game. If you like action games with a bit of a twist, or if you've ever wanted to try virtual rice farming, then I definitely recommend checking it out. If you're enjoying the video and want to support a growing channel, then please do subscribe and hit the bell icon.
Watch out! On it!
Dragon Ball Sparking Zero is an action-packed fighting game that takes you right into the explosive battles of the Dragon Ball universe with incredible visuals, fast-paced combat, and a massive roster of characters. And what's really fun is how you can pull off all those flashy special moves and transformations just like in the anime. But while the battles are intense and the destructible environments look great, the controls can feel a bit clunky at times, especially when trying to pull off complex combos. And the story mode feels a bit too familiar if you've played other Dragon Ball games, but if you're a fan of the series, you're definitely going to have a blast with this one. Little Nightmares 2 is this super creepy and atmospheric puzzle platformer where you play as Mono, a little boy with a paper bag on his head, and you team up with Six from the first game to escape this terrifying world. It's a really suspenseful game, and the atmosphere is just incredible. It's full of these unsettling visuals and sounds that really get under your skin. The puzzles are well designed and they make good use of the environment. I loved the way the story unfolds. It's very mysterious, and you're constantly trying to piece together what's going on. It's definitely a scary game. There are some genuinely creepy moments that made me jump. If I had to say anything negative, maybe it's that some parts can be a little frustrating if you get stuck on a puzzle. But overall, it's a fantastic game. If you enjoyed the first one, or if you're just a fan of horror games with a focus on atmosphere and story, then I highly recommend checking it out. Ori and the Will of the Wisps is this gorgeous Metroidvania game where you play as Ori, a little spirit who has to save his forest and his friends. It's a really beautiful game, the visuals are stunning, and the world is so full of life. The platforming is incredibly smooth and responsive. You feel so fluid as you're jumping and dashing around. I loved exploring the different areas. Each one is unique and has its own challenges. The combat is also really fun. There are lots of different abilities you can unlock and upgrade. It can be a bit challenging at times. Some of the boss fights are pretty tough, but it's never unfair. Honestly, it's hard to find anything I didn't like about this game. Maybe if I had to nitpick, I'd say the story is a little bit simple, but it's still very heartfelt. Overall, it's a fantastic game. It's a must-play for any fan of Metroidvanias or platformers. Marvel Rivals is an action-packed fighting game where you get to play as your favorite Marvel heroes and villains, battling it out in fast-paced, one-on-one fights with cool combos and special abilities. The gameplay is super fun, and the graphics are stunning, making each fight look like a scene straight out of a Marvel movie.
I'll take a shield, sure.
I really enjoyed how each character feels different, and there are so many moves to learn. The only downside is that the story mode is a bit short, and the multiplayer could be better balanced. Even with these small issues, it's a great game to play with friends or solo. It's just one of those games that keeps you coming back for more.
That's 3! Wow, 4 in a row! 5!
Nine Sols is an action platformer set in a world inspired by Asian mythology, and right from the start, the hand-drawn visuals pulled me in with how beautiful and detailed everything looks. The combat is really fun with its mix of sword fighting and deflecting enemy attacks that feel super satisfying when timed right, although some of the platforming sections can be pretty frustrating because they need really precise jumps. And while the story is interesting and adds a lot of depth to the game, it does feel a bit slow in some parts. But overall, if you're into challenging combat and a unique, beautiful world, this game is definitely worth checking out.
So good to see you again. You lost consciousness after awakening to your power.
Persona 3 Reload is a remake of the classic JRPG that mixes dungeon crawling with social simulation, letting you balance fighting shadows at night and building relationships during the day. The updated graphics look fantastic and the combat feels smoother with some nice quality of life improvements. I loved revisiting the story, which is still one of the best in the series, full of emotional moments and deep character development. But I was a bit disappointed that some content from the original versions was left out, like certain side stories. Still, if you're into JRPGs with a great story and strategic combat, it's definitely worth playing.